All right, so before I give you a story time on this Gerber MP400, I think we should actually look for the pouch. It's in here somewhere. Here it is. Let's get on with this video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if it's your first time here. My name is Johnny. I'm a musician, artist, and a guy who likes sharp things like multi-tools and knives. And every now and then I like to take them into the woods. In this video, I'm going to give you a story time on the Gerber MP400. Goes back to about the mid-90s or mid to early 90s. I can't exactly remember. I want to say 1992, but I'm not 100% sure. I definitely know it was in the early 90s. This is the original pouch that it came with. And things have changed a lot since those days, you know. But this was on my belt every single day. And I was a framing contractor back in those days. And at my peak, I had 40 employees. That's right, 40 employees. And yes, I was a musician at night as well. So in those days, I was burning the candle at both ends. And I would have to say that I was pretty aggressive. I kind of went after things, and I worked really, really hard. Now that I'm an older man, I can look back and go, I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. So I've mellowed out, and I'm glad that I have. But this was a big part of those days. So, of course, when you're a framing contractor, you're going to have a lot of tools. And to run 40 men, I had many compressors and many nail guns and many hoses and many extension cords and many skill saws. We call them skill saws. I don't know, power saw. I don't know. I don't know what you guys call them, but we call them a skill saw. At least that's what I called it. This pouch has a bunch of little compartments in here, you can see. And this is where I used to keep different types of bits. Phillips and Robertson, things like that. It's still held together, you know, considering how much abuse this thing has gone through. It's doing pretty good. And here's the actual multi-tool. And for those of you new to this, this was also called Mr. Pinchy for obvious reasons. Once your hand get caught inside there when you were reefing down on something, it generally left you a nice pinchy mark. And yeah, when your hands are really, really cold and you pinch, man, that hurts even more, I find. So I used to use these all the time for bending rebar wire or tie wire. And of course, I used the cutters a lot when I was stripping wire. And surprisingly, they're still in pretty good shape. Cutting rebar wire, yeah. It's got this little slide action going on. So in those days, I was running around kind of just keeping an eye on different projects, and I'd always stop in on the projects, and lo and behold, someone would say, you know, there's a cord that needs to be fixed, or a saw that needs to be fixed, or one of the hose clamps on one of the hoses needs to be fixed. You know, I use this thing primarily. Even though I had a tool for the hose clamps, I did use this quite a bit, especially on the compressor. I can't even remember exactly what types of compressors. I think I want to say M-Glow But I had maybe 4 or 5 of these things running around various parts of the city. And some of the tools that I used frequently. Now notice how I open this? I just grabbed the entire thing. And none of the tools lock. And I'm going to try and do this gently without hurting myself. I didn't really use the can opener very often, but I'm sure it works really well. The one thing I used a ton was the screwdriver. I'll put the rest of the tools back. Yeah, you got to be really careful with this thing, especially when you're behind the camera. But I use this a lot, especially on those extension cords and those little metal hose clamps. I used to use this all the time. And I've already mentioned that the tools don't lock. One of the things that I never used, at least I don't think, was this, I don't know if I can get it out without cutting myself, is this lanyard carabiner ring, or it seems to be pretty solid, but I never did use it. I mean, I suppose I probably could have tied something on there. It would have been sticking out the side there, but I never did. So one of the stories you're going to love, I have to share with you. One of the guys on the site had shot a nail through. It went in here, and it stayed in the meaty part of the hand. Like, we're talking 3 1/4 inch spike out of a coil nailer. And anyway, I went to the job site, and this fella, his name was Steve, I'll never forget, he goes, "Hey, Johnny," and he puts his hand out like this, and I'm going, "Yeah, what, you want to shake my hand?" He goes, "No, look," and I'm going, "What am I looking at?" Because there was no blood. There was nothing. There was just this, the head of this nail was sticking up here. And he said, "I just shot myself," and I had to look a second time and go, "Oh, whoa, we better get you to the emergency or something." And I joked, I pulled this out of my pocket. I said, "While I'm here, I mean, do you want me to pull this out for you?" And he said, "Well, okay." And I said, "No, I'm just kidding. Let's get you to the emergency, and let's get that taken care of." Well, I was with him the entire time, and I'm not lying. When the doctor came out, he came out with a pair of pliers to pull it out. And I jokingly said, "I mean, do you want to just use these?" But of course he didn't, because they're not sterile or anything like that. But I found it funny that he came out with pliers. I had them in my pocket. And anyway, it was funny at the time, but I'm sure Steve was not feeling so funny with a 3 1/4 inch spike in his hand. But yeah, so the Gerber MP400, otherwise known as Mr. Pinchy. Let's look at what else I used. I used the Phillips a lot. Again, I used the Phillips a lot on extension cords and on hose clamps and anything to do with that compressor. I found it to be very handy. It was a pain in the butt pulling it out all the time and getting used to it. But you got to understand, in those days, we never had the modern surges and the waves and anything like the one-hand stuff. So this was pretty modern for its time. Of course, those days are over. But long ago, I shared a story with you when I was in the military. And one of the things that attracted me to this particular tool was the stamping on the side. To me, it just looks military, and I think it's possible that these were actually issued. Don't quote me if it was the American or the Canadian Army, but I think they were. Maybe down in the comments you'll be able to confirm that. So that's Mr. Pinchy, the MP400, and a time that's gone and will never come back. And in many ways, I'm happy for that, but in many ways, I'll miss those days. This tool was with me every day while I was riding around in the forklift or the Zoom Boom or something like that. And it lived on my belt. It never came off. 24/7. I hope you liked that short little story of the Gerber MP400. And I'm going to bring you another story time very soon. You're really going to love the one on the watch. I really think you're going to like that one. Let me know what you guys think. And let me know what more content you'd like to see coming in the future. Have a great day. Bye for now.